Hey everybody! The reason why I was making that face is because somebody in the other room going off, and I'm like, yes, amen, girl. I'm not doing it. So anyway, life is fairly interesting right now, in that I feel like it's very much a King of Swords energy. Because I would say like I've been intuitive AF lately, but about stuff that is like very logical. It's nothing that's been a surprise. Also, I just want to use the Dreams of Gaia tarot. So that is why I'm here. I don't remember where I put them though. So is it you? I also wanted to use, I think it is. I also wanted to use the no. The Osho Zen tarot. But I'm not. I'm just gonna find the Dreams of Gaia. It has been truly synchronistic in some ways that are just more interesting, I guess, than anything else. So, for context, I was at work yesterday and I was helping a coworker do something. And then as I was doing it, I had the thought. I was like, I could do this if I had to. And then today, I was talking with one coworker, another one about something else, and I had another thought, and I was like, you know what? This happened, and this other thing happened. I bet that this conversation is going to happen. And then within the space of an hour, I went downstairs, and that conversation literally happened. And the thing that I thought about the day before, like I could probably do this if I had to, it also came up in conversation. So that's why it's like it's not anything out of the ordinary, like a watery kind of intuition. It's a swordsy intuition that was like happened. Maybe it's an integration of the two elements in some way. King of Swords comes out literally every time I pick up the mystical manga tarot. So that's why I was like, oh, it's that King of Swords energy. But I didn't want to use the mystical manga tarot. So I was going to look in before and after the King of Air and the Dreams of Gaia, because that's the deck that I want to use. And then go from there. Here it is. I was like, I know I got this deck somewhere. And it's been interesting. There have been many an interesting synchronicity in my life within the past 48 hours. I guess today. Because the thing that I was like, I just had the thought, I had the feeling that I was going to be asked to do it. And I was like, you know what? This isn't terrible. As the tallest person in the lab, it would be the most, like, it's the easiest for me to do it. And I was like, it's not that bad. I could do it. Plus, it is like a little bit away. And I don't mind being a little bit away because then I get to just be in my own mind and do stuff. And then I'm like, I was doing this thing today at work, and then I had this thought, and here I am, blah, 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 right? That's who I am, basically. Um, but that happened today. And then the other, that conversation, I was like, you know what? I feel like this is that person's train of thought, and this is going to be the conversation. And we had that conversation. And then something else happened today that I got. So I got the deck of many things and many fates, and I have a coworker, and I gave it away. Um, and then they brought it up tonight. They brought it up tonight, and then another kind of sort of little mini synchronicity happened, and it's interesting because I was thinking all day, today, yesterday, for the past few days. There's a thought that I've been having, and I was almost like I had to confront it in a way today. And so I don't know. Again, it's like it's more King of Swords because it isn't anything that hasn't like crossed my mind before. It does seem like very logical, like this is going to happen. But I guess it all just sort of happened today. And better than I guess I could have hoped, thought, planned, imagined, whatever, things ended up happening. So things are happening. Also, everybody's saying the full moon is on the 19th. I got a notification yesterday. It was like the moon is in Taurus. I was like, what? But the 19th is in 3 days. Now the moon spends, what is it, like 2.8 or something days, or it's like 2.5 or 2.8 days in the sign. So it's not like completely whatever. But I was like, that's 3 full days away. Isn't the moon gonna be in like Gemini by then? But then I got on my little app last night, and it's true. It's happening on the 19th, right before the moon moves into Gemini. And oh, I'm having a lunar return. That's what it is. I was like, something else is happening because my moon is in Taurus, so I'm having a lunar return. So anyway, I don't know if it's today's just been an interesting day. And another thing happened today where I feel like I've been on a little mini hype train, in a certain way, area, aspect. And today it was just like, you know what? I could fight this. I could contest this. And it was partially related to a lot of the things that I had already thought about before. So maybe, and that's the thing for me. I feel like I found in my journey through life, like I'll get a little bit of a forewarning or something. I'll have a thought, and I'm like, you know what? I bet this is gonna happen. I've always been like this, but before, I guess I've never been not proactive. Yeah, I've never really been proactive. I've never really been the type to like do stuff. And so it was just like, oh, I knew this would happen. But as I started to become more active in my life, and as I've started to be more invested in bettering my life in every aspect and area that I can, I found that when I get that thought before it actually prepares me for when the situation actually happens, I can make a different choice. And so today, I guess in some way, I was able to find a little bit of compassion, because I'm terrible. I can be extremely petty, not unwarranted, but I can be. Um, but I was like, you know what? I feel like I could be a little softer. I feel like I can be kinder, more compassionate. And then something happened today. So I don't know why everything is happening today, but something happened. And at first, I was like, ooh. And then I was like, you know what? Compassion. Let it go. Um, and I don't know. So anyway, I finally found the deck. I'm going to pull these cards out. I don't know what's happening today. And then I saw Eve's Pisces reading. Cindy did Taurus today. I watched it. I can barely remember. I know it was about the Ten of Cups, and it was about something. But yeah, today's been an interesting day. Very King of Swords, I guess. Like I said, I've already mentioned. Um, and maybe I don't know. I'm just gonna give this a few shuffles. I'm gonna see what's before and after the King of Air, and then we will proceed from there. Also, I was like really tired today. Maybe it's because the moon went into Taurus. I thought today was Tuesday all day. It wasn't until somebody mentioned streaming, and I was like, "Don't you stream on Wednesdays?" And then I was like, "Oh, today is Wednesday." Um, but like so yawny and tired this week. Like I haven't felt like doing anything, or I haven't felt like doing most things because after like lunch, I've just been like done. But I'm gonna give this a cut right there. The bottom of the deck is the Ten of Air. I've seen this card before. And behind the Ten of Air is number 24 of Faith. It feels like this is the energy that's on, like, in that whatever, like on the other side, you see the darkness. This is the energy in the dark that this person is connecting to through that window under the eye of the divine. What kind of animals we got? We got a heron. We got some wolf coyote thing, a turtle with a tree on its back. Oh, that's another eye. I didn't notice the eye. I just saw the black heart. There's an eye in that one too. What else have I been thinking about lately? I feel like something is like, and was that part of Eve's? Yeah, because I watched Eve's reading. And she was like, "Are you not remembering your dreams right now, Pisces?" And like some of the dreams I had, I remembered. I feel like I haven't. I've been like partially forgetting. Maybe I don't know. Honestly, maybe I've been so tired during the day because I've been staying up a little later. I'm like, oh, I can still get. I'll be like, oh, I can get 7 hours of sleep if I go to bed at 11, and then it'll be reaching like midnight or 1. I feel like, well, I can still get. Oh, I said I wasn't gonna shuffle this. Okay, so I'm gonna look before and after the King of Air real quick. I don't even know if it's kings in these deck. I can't remember. It's the 14 of air. So I gotta look for the 14 of air because it's not gonna say. Oh, it is, because it says Queen of Fire. Okay. Girl, I don't know. King of Fire. Or King of Earth. Okay, so I will find the King of Air. Let's see what's going on. Oh, here he is. The King of Air is between the 3 of Fire and the Emotions card. With the self under that. The child and the self are outside of the window. So it's the child, and then the king. No, the child, and then the 3 of Fire, and then the King of Air, then the card of Emotions, and then this card of self. So outside of the window, because I like to do that sometimes too. It's the self and the child. And what's interesting is this card of Emotions, number 19, is reminding me of Faith, number 24, for obvious reasons. But as I was saying, I feel like there's something that I'm like processing that I'm not fully conscious of. Does your brain ever just like run in the background and you're like loosely aware of what it's doing? It's like that. And they'll be like, oh, I'll get a thought or something. And then I'll sit with it for a second and then I'll lose it. I actually did have a thought. So I guess it's interesting that Faith in the Ten of Swords came out because as I'm nearing the end, or as we're all nearing the end of 2022, 2021, as we're nearing the end of 2021, just like how this year has treated me. Like, this year is my golden year. It's my 28th year on earth in this lifetime. I was born on the 28th, and I remember fairly early into it, I was on Rob Odinson, formerly Rob Staro's channel, and I was like, what's my golden year going to be like? And then the cards came out, whatever. But I was thinking about my golden year today and how my word for 2021 was indescribable because I wanted to end the year. And I'm like, now I'm getting emotional. Ew. But I wanted to end the year in a position that I wouldn't have even imagined at the beginning. And I'm pretty much already there. I mean, I didn't necessarily imagine myself like unemployed, but some of the opportunities that I've had, it's like and maybe that's the thing about, for me, that's the thing about is faith. That's the thing about faith and the Ten of Swords. Because I feel like these two cards honestly have been pretty much my journey since I started. Lots of towers, lots of Ten of Swords, but knowing that more was beyond it. And there have been certain challenges that I've had to face in my life that I knew were great challenges. The one of the like easiest ones was like opening up myself to like love and like getting over my relationship anxiety and stuff like that I didn't even know I had. And my mom was like, you didn't know that? I was like, one day I was like, Mom, I think I have relationship anxiety. And she was like, yeah, you didn't know that? I was like, no, because I've always had a reason. Um, but there have been certain challenges I've faced along my journey, knowing that there was so much that lied behind the resolution or the overcoming of those challenges. And in some ways, it's been that. In the beginning, it was that got me through. Um, Always, it's just that like the life that I'm living is leagues better than the life I had before, and I have no incentive to go back. I've like incentive to not go back because my life was not great. It was extremely not great. It wasn't extremely not great in an externally like combative sort of way, but like internally, mentally, and then dealing with the hand that I've been dealt in life, it was very not great. It was more than I saw resolution to, I guess. Problems that I had just basically consigned myself to that got gradually worse. And I was like, okay, so before they become all the way bad, then anyway, anyway, that was it before. And then last year it was something else. Last year it was love that got me to face any and every challenge. And I don't know if I was telling one of my close friends recently that last year, because I made the comment, I think last time I was live or the time before that, that like everything is about me because it's my journey. Um, and so like last year, I had a lot of love for an individual, a person, and things didn't work out. And at first, I was like, I don't understand how it's like possible to feel everything that I feel and everything that I feel is on the other side directed at me, but things just like not work out. Um, and it's a reality that over the course of living life and time, I learned to accept. And then I think it reached the point because it was always like, or like at some point, like seeing what I was capable of in a way that I didn't necessarily think I was before. It was like, that's my love. So like even if I love my mom or I love anybody, the love that I have for them is mine. It's no one else's. and the love that they have for me is theirs. And when that love is shared, then there is something that it creates, and it's mutuality. And then it's a love that we share. But if the bond is ever broken for whatever reason, or if an absence is ever felt for whatever reason, then everything that I feel is still mine. And I don't have to curdle it or turn it sour or be turned bitter by it or be made angry or be made distrustful or whatever. I can allow everything to be what it was. And I can also move on with my life. I can also accept the fact that, like I just said, with everything being what it was, it just isn't meant to be. Or that's like, it's not the nature of how things will work. Um, and that's why, like, I always talk about paradox. I like to know how stuff works, but I can also accept paradox. And I don't feel a need within myself to resolve it. I don't feel a need within myself to force something to work or to be like, well, I have so much, like it has to be like, but I've never really been the type of person, like, I've always respected the free will of others. And so it's like, if there's someone that I like and they don't like me, I don't take it like personally because like it just like there are plenty of people that I don't like. And some of those people like me. But I'm just like, you know what I mean? And so if it's the other way around, I don't feel that anyone has to reciprocate whatever. But anyway, last year, so the beginning of last year was learning that. Around the middle of the year, it was about me learning to love myself and like what self love for me actually looks like more than just words. And self love was me doing a lot of stuff that I didn't want to do. And I don't know if it's all the Taurus in my chart, but I am really, really, really bad at doing things that I don't want to do. I'm really good at not doing things that I need to do if I don't want to do it. And so part of it, I guess, through everything was like, and it's interesting because I think I know where I was mentally. I know where I was mentally. And I know that because I didn't see a future for myself and because I didn't value my own life and because I didn't want to continue living it, there were so many things in the world that I never experienced because I never saw any of those experiences as for me. And maybe that's where some of the relationship anxiety stemmed from because there was a part of me that thought it was so extremely cruel for, or it would have been so extremely cruel for me to allow someone to love me and then bear the burden of living life with me. And so it was because of that that I never even really held that as a possibility. It's also because of that that I never really like engaged or entertained the thought of like actually dating anybody. But it's almost like since I went through my whole life without even like without ever really allowing it to me, when that restriction was gone, it's like maybe I was this child again. And it's like, oh well, now I have to do this for the first time. And it's hilarious because there are a lot of things, there are quite a few things that I'll express to my mom. And she'll be like, remember when you didn't care? You didn't care about this, you didn't care about that. I was like, yeah, I didn't care about a lot of stuff. But I got a life to live and I got stuff that I want in my life. So I care now. Um, and that's a part of it. And I don't know. I was just thinking today because I know that, is this in reverse? It is in reverse. Why is this in reverse? The three of fire is in reverse. I didn't even notice it. Did I put it in reverse? No, I think it was already in reverse. Anyway, like I know that times have been rough for a lot of people, and I know that not everyone is in the same position that I'm in. Just like as far as being able to navigate as easily as I've been able to, but I also know like all of what I've done. Um, and I know of all that I will do because I said it last year and I said it the year before. I want a lot. I want everything. I want everything. And to get everything, I'm willing to do everything. Anything that I have to do to get the everything that I want, I'm going to do it. And maybe that's the seed of self love that was planted within me before I knew what all I would be asked to do, I guess. Um, and so maybe it was good that I had that love to self love experience. Because there's a lot of stuff I just like did not want to do. And even now I feel like I have more anxiety now than I did before because I care more. Now I don't have enough anxiety to care about some stuff. Like some stuff I still don't really. It's just like, but other stuff I'm like, I kind of care now. I'm like, oof. And so I'll be like psyching myself up. I'm like, just do it. I mean, there's some stuff I still haven't done. It's minorly or whatever, sort of inconsequential. Um, but I did have the thought to talk about it today. I didn't really want to, um, but I did have the thought, and I was like, "Wow, my golden year has definitely been golden." But it's been so because of everything that I've already done, and because of all that I continue to do, and because of all that I'm willing to do, and because of all that I'm doing. Not to say that anyone else isn't doing whatever, but I think sometimes in our unwillingness to do what must truly be done, oh, that's a perfect example of that. In our unwillingness or inability, for whatever reason, to do what truly needs to be done, we find other things to do. But those other things to do don't always necessarily move us any closer to the resolution of the thing that we know we need to do. And I remember the beginning of 2020, there were so many people. There were a few people, most of the people I talked to, they were like, oh, it feels like spirit has gone quiet and like, don't know what to do, don't know what to do. And like, literally every single person I talked to knew what to do. Every single one. They didn't, or they didn't want to for a good reason, for extremely valid reasons. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like, is the reason valid enough to keep you where you are? Is the reason valid enough to keep you from getting what it is that you truly desire? And for me, there isn't a lot that's valid enough to keep me from the everything that I desire for my life. I haven't met anything yet that is too great, too big, too scary, too heavy of a burden, too loaded karmically or whatever to be like, you know what? If this is something I got to do to get where I'm going, it's done. Now, like, don't get me wrong, I may take a day, 2 days, a few days, maybe a week. I feel like 2 days is usually like my limit. Like after a day, it's like whatever. After 2 days, it's like okay. But like after that, it's like okay. Like I'm not trying to stagnate. There's more that I desire. I need to do something. Now, some of those they have taken longer, but in the ones that take longer, there are still things that you find along the way. It's the path, it's the journey. You find there's always something to find. Always. And so, we can make a game, I guess, of continuing to find things while we're doing whatever, or we can find them. I don't know. Anyway, 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 anyway. This three of fire in reverse with emotions upright is around the king of air. You know what I like about this though? Because the three of fire, the three of wands, it's an energy of waiting, it's an energy of anticipating, it's an energy of, it's like doing everything that you can do within your power and waiting on the external world to do what it needs to do for you to get where you're trying to go. But with this three of wands in reverse, three of fire in reverse energy, and with this emotions upright, with this what fiery being with this dragon over the shoulder presenting this sword, it's almost like a, like instead of waiting, I'm gonna do it. It's an energy that definitely takes charge. And maybe that's what gives the King of Swords his foresight, because it is an active energy. It's almost like, because again in the mystical manga, it's like everything is logical. It was the King of Swords and the Eight of Wands. And it was like the King of Swords is like, the in the book it was like he's observing, planning what is like the next logical step. And then in the Eight of Wands, it was like it's very fast energy because it's the next logical step. It's like something that snowballs, right? If you push a boulder off of a mountain, gravity is going to take over. It's not, it's not up to chance. It's not coincidental that if a boulder falling off the mountain is going to pick up speed and momentum, and the more momentum it has when it makes impact, the more whatever that impact is going to be, because of the momentum that it had, because of the force of gravity, because it was moved from its position of rest at the top of the mountain where it wasn't moving. And so it's almost like, but with that energy, it's almost like the King of Swords is like, because I don't know, it feels like instead of it being, because I know Rob talked about it, it's like instead of the universe being this grand thing, it's like more your immediate surroundings. So it's almost like the King of Swords is like, because I'm doing this in my environment and this is my in my environment, because I know that my environment is going to respond to what I'm doing in this way and in this way. Then if I carry this series of interactions, this will be the end result. But it's so close, this universe, that it is like personal interactions. And it may not even be interactions with people, it could be like energetic interactions, right? It could be, I mean, with the Ten of Swords and Faith, it's probably most definitely more energetic interactions. And it's like the energy that you provide the world in response to what's happening. And so it's almost like there are certain things that we add momentum to, and there are things that we can take momentum out of. And it's like if you take the momentum out of the boulder, right? It's not that it's necessarily going to stop falling, because gravity gravity is it's a pretty powerful force, pretty natural. But it's like if you can take the momentum out of it, you reduce the damage, the collateral from the impact that it makes, right? And so maybe instead of like knocking over five houses before it finally comes to a stop, you reduce the momentum enough that when it hits that first wall, it comes to rest, and it doesn't destroy anything, but it still takes its natural path. You know what I mean? But anyway, it's something so entwined and connected in so many ways. And it again, it's like it feels like it's this energy of like how we personally interact or what we offer that affects and changes the situation, which is interesting because usually, because I know somebody got a King of Swords energy, and I feel like a lot of times I reach this topic. It's this energy that's like as soon as we interact with something, it feels like we stopped being able to foresee the outcome. It was the water, the sorcerer, and the mountain. And under the water, it was a high priestess upright. And then it was high priestess upright energy and a high priestess in reverse energy. And it was like, more or less. You can receive what's gonna happen. But as soon as you interact with it, then that high priestess goes in reverse. And maybe it's just for me. More, I mean, like if it resonates or if you find that it's true, then by all means. Because I know, like, I'll have dreams where I'll literally dream the whole dream. It's like one of two. Either I'll dream the entire dream and then dream it again from the beginning, but I'll be in it the second time, or I'll enter the dream with the knowing of how everything is going to play out. And as soon as I do anything, because I've either had the whole dream or I know what's going to happen, but as soon as I interact with the dream, things are different. But it's different because I've interacted with it. I wasn't there to interact with it before, so it had a different course. It had like a different chain of events because I wasn't a player on the board. I wasn't a piece in the puzzle. But as soon as I'm like, oh, I know what's going to happen. So, and not most, some of those dreams, it's like something not great happens. And then it's like I have to try to defend or protect somebody. And I'm like, I know what you're gonna do. I'm gonna stop you. And then like, yeah, you are. Well, let's do this thing that you didn't see. And I'm like, oh my gosh. But it's because I wasn't there to do the thing the first time. So there was no way to see the reaction. And I wonder, because again, like I'm one person who has my own experience and I can't speak on anybody else's journey, experience, life, gifts, whatever. But I wonder if people who are more, because I'm like low key thinking about it. I wonder if people who are more, who have an intuition that'll like tell them that something is going to play out and then it plays out that day, it plays out that way. I wonder how much those people directly interact with the energy. Because I've been in a position before when I'm like, oh, this is going to fail because of this reason. I see everything. I know how this is going to play out before we even get there. And then lo and behold, it happens. But unlike Raven from That So Raven, every time that's happened, I haven't done anything. I just watch it. I'm like, yep, it's going to happen. I already know it. Hands up. Not even going to do anything. And then it plays out. But again, it's like with this energy, with like receiving the sword, at least again from my vantage point perspective, from my internal wiring, I can't necessarily perceive it in another way. I would have to go somewhere to do that. Um, but it's like when I interact with something, which is new, it's new for me. Actually, if I'm extremely honest with myself, I don't know if before now I've had too much of an opportunity to engage. And so thank you for this. Also, this is probably like when I'm talking about how like I'm like, yeah, but if I hesitate now, it's probably something that's like of minor consequence. Is it? Because there are some things, and I feel like I'm in a position where it's like everything's been done before. It's like, this isn't the first time. And again, so the conversation that I'm having now is pulling from a conversation that I had earlier today or a conclusion I reached earlier today, but today is still today. So let the synchronicity continue, I guess. But it's very like, this isn't the first time we've had this problem. This isn't the first time this has happened. It's not the first time. It's not the first time, but it's the first time for me. And again, going back to the thing about being a player on the board, being a piece of the puzzle, I wasn't here every other time. And so there is a part of me that wants to, that is especially because of my environment, because of my immediate environment. Like I see someone who takes their knowledge, their experiences, and brings it to the table, and someone who contests things and is very like But I've always been so like, oh, I know how this is gonna play out, number one, or I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to cause any problems, number two, or it's not really my place to say anything, number three, that I've never like done anything. So it's like, of course, everything is gonna like play out the way you know it's gonna play out if you don't do anything to like, I don't want to say intervene, but if you don't do anything to stop it, or if you don't do anything to influence the course of events and happenings, then of course it's going to be the same. Like if I had a whole dream and then I dream the same dream, but I'm just a person in it, I'm not doing anything, then yeah, it's probably going to play out the same way because I didn't do anything. And it's very like ripples in a pondy type energy. It's like very, it's like ghosts. Just like you're just there. You don't really interact with anything. Your presence doesn't really have much substance. You just kind of sort of float around and you're like, yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I know that. Like fly on the wall, ghost type of energy. But anyway, I'm going to try to recover my train of thought. So, having that as an example, I was like, you know what? Maybe I should be more because I was like, I'm also like, I'm a player on the board in this game for a reason. Like there's something that I have that may be the key to bringing some kind of resolution. And it's funny because how many times was it either earlier this year or last year when I was like, there's something about your specific journey, even if you can find a million and one reasons why you are less than worthy of other people because they've done this and you didn't, because it took you, blah, 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 whatever, and it didn't take them and they got this and they got that. It's like there's something that you have to offer to the situation. And I said it all those times and it's the lesson is catching up to me now because I wasn't doing nothing for a long time. I was just in my room not interacting with the world at large. So this is another thing, like I said, sometimes I'll get something before I'm in the situation so I can make the higher aligned choice. I can be a little bit more high vibrational and a lot less petty. um I feel like that was part of my journey too. Like when I first started, I was in my room, not interacting with the world at all, like meditating for hours a day in the beginning, doing a lot of like introspection and like a lot of cleaning of the self and reorganizing and like addressing stuff. And then after like 6 months, 6 to 7 months, then I got a job over the summer and I started working and I had to like incorporate everything into like interacting with people in the real world. And honestly, most of my frustration was people as people. Honestly, most of it was a specific individual because they were in in a leadership position and they didn't lead effectively. And it's like, girl, like you're supposed to be in charge. How are you making us do work that we're not even supposed to do when we follow the proper chain of command? We go to you and you take care of this. So why are you telling me to take care of this? When if I'm doing what I was trained to do, I'd be going to you. Hello? So that was like all my issues. It wasn't like it was less like this is a my new healed philosophy and way outlook on life is being challenged. It was people, girl. But some of it was some stuff because my journey buddy, she was like, "You already know this," and it was true. And I feel like I'm kind of sort of doing that now. I did a lot of talking for a long time, but now I'm out in the real world and I get to live it. Um, but it's very that I feel like every time it's like, it's not the first time, it's not the first time. But I will say I've also been met with encouragement with like, thank you for bringing this up. Thank you for bringing this up. Thank you for bringing this to my awareness. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. Like, this is what we're looking for. So even though it was like, this ain't our first rodeo, it's just that like how I've already positioned myself on the board. Right now I'm trying to find my niche or whatever. I'm trying to find how what I have to offer and how who I am and how the power of my presence, especially when I'm present, can bring more to a situation instead of just watching from the back and being like, oh, that's gonna fail, that's gonna fall apart, this is gonna crash and burn and not do anything. So maybe that's also a part of this for me. And the self is like pretty mature, like especially coming from the child. Who was that? Oh, look what's under the self, y'all. It's union. So it's the child, the self, and union on the outside, which is bringing a lot of this to balance. Oh, see? Okay. So before the child is the six of air, and the six of air is in that polarity, is in that sort of like both energy. And then we have the child, and then we have all of this, and then we have the self and union, even though it's probably more like this. Hold up, wait. Let me see if I can get this. That card just, the child is on the ground. Hold up. Oof. They tried to switch spaces. Is it like this? Yes, it's like this. Although the order may be slightly different depending. But anyway, I did have that thought early in the day. I was like, oh, it's my gold. Like, I thought about the reading from Rob, about my golden year. I thought about what this year is. I thought about the very real sort of potential that is in my life. I thought about, honestly, I thought about the everything that, and it's not even everything at this point. I thought about the more that's a part of the everything that I've been working towards. And being in a space to experience it, and being not only being in a space to experience it, but I guess also in some ways being in a space where a lot of it, not a lot of it, where parts of it I don't necessarily share. Um, and there are people that I could share it with, but before sharing, I guess it does help me in holding it to like not, it's almost like maybe it's for me. There are some things when I share, I feel like it's kind of sort of out of my hands. Like the burden is split, and it's not a heavy burden, but it does feel like holding it right now in some ways gives me the opportunity to work through it further. Almost like wait until I get stumped and then reach out. It's not like a reach out thing, but it's like I'm faced with more, and it's like wow, you know what I mean? And again, it's like it's nothing. Oops, it's nothing that I didn't want. It's nothing that I didn't ask for. It's nothing that I wasn't working for. For gosh darn sure, it's a lot of what I was working for. But still, it's just like wow. And then it came up in conversation the other day, or not even really. I really like where I am in life. There are things that for all of that Pisces, you need a budget. Pisces, you need to do this. Like there are things that I am slacking on. Like don't get me wrong, there are some very real, very 3D things that I still ain't done, and I know I need to like take care of them before they become even bigger problems or spiral or whatever. Before they inconvenience me in any way, right? I should be more proactive. Um, but yeah, I'm really content. I'm really more than content. I'm happy with where I am and where things are going. And I don't know. I feel like sometimes I get like random, not well, yeah, I do get randomly emotional for extremely valid reasons. Oh, look, there's this doubling energy. So two cards came out. It's the five of water and the 10 of water. I feel like so when I was little, when I was younger, I would do if y'all watch me, like y'all know I'm a weirdo or whatever. So when I was a kid, on my old phone that I knew I wouldn't have forever, but I thought I'd have forever, on my birthday, I put a reminder every year. Because if I live long enough and science reaches that point, I put an alarm to recur every year on my birthday to like go back in time and save myself. Uh, like if time travel ever becomes possible, like to go back and help myself. And I was like, I probably couldn't meet myself because that might like destroy time or something. So maybe I would have to be clever. And then sometimes if I was extra Patrick, I would be like, oh, what if I've already met myself in disguise or blah blah blah, whatever. I don't know. And this makes me think of that. It's like, because there was a part of me when I would reach the lowest of the low and just be completely out, there was like the prayers of my mother, the prayers of a mighty, mighty people of faith. We ain't even got to include the religion. Mighty people of faith, the prayers reached out. But like when I would hit the darkest spot, like I feel like a light would find me. And I would just like naturally sort of rise from it. I would just be like comforted and never like there was never really anything or anyone there. But it's like I would be like spiraling, 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 and then like kind of sort of hit rock bottom. And when I hit rock bottom, something would just like some buoyant force would just like lift me back up until I had my darkest night. When I had my darkest night, that didn't happen. And that's when I was like, I really got to do something because if it's gonna be like this, I don't know if I'm gonna survive another one. And it's funny because that was like a few days after I did a guided meditation to connect to my spirit guides. So they just let me fall that time, I guess. I don't know. Um, but the reason why I think of that is like I don't have a time machine, but I wonder if I can like send that child Patrick a little bit of love or a lot of it to make it through from this position that I'm in now. And like there was one time in particular where there was something that deeply, deeply angered and perturbed me that I had to let go. So I had to go back to a past, to a child me that was defenseless and so angry and release it. And so like I've the child, right? So I've done it before and I feel like I've done it a few times since then, but it doesn't hurt. And that's what this reminds me of. But what's interesting is the light above, because, like, see, this one has like the rays of light penetrating the water, and this one has the heart shining rays of light above it in the tin of water, the heart with the eye in it. So it's almost like, I guess it would be a little bit more like this. What's at the bottom of the deck? I don't know. Knowledge, number 9. Guess what's behind knowledge? The child. Guess what's behind the child? It's that 6 of air again. I'm still shuffling it, so it's not too surprising that they're still together. But now behind the six of air is the two of air, which I guess is interesting. And the queen of water is behind that. Oh, see, look, this queen of water is behind the two of air. That's behind the six of air. Just like a queen of water energy in general, especially when we got like this kind of stuff going on, and then the child or whatever. I don't know. Life's just been life's been interesting, I guess. But yeah, it's been like even last year for me personally, I was taken care of. And I know I count myself fortunate in that, but I guess I also know that I've reached the point, I guess, in my life where I have no choice but to face life. So anyway, don't know what this whole hour ramble was, but if you find something in it, then take it. If you don't, then don't. If you watched it, then that's time you're not going to get back. So hopefully there's something that you can take. And if there's nothing that you can take from it, then maybe know that next time it won't be worth the hour either. I don't know. So let me get one final card from this Dreams of Gaia. I was thinking about Michael and that sword the other day. I think I talked about it though. Oh, well, I mean, I guess, yeah. So the last card that came out is number 21, Perception. And you know what I like about this Perception card? I love that it's dark. And I love that she has the sword, but she's not doing anything. She's just standing there with her little mask saying, I already know how this is going to play out. I already know what's going to happen. And she's just standing there, letting it happen. Like, girl, I mean, like, or you could do something. Hold up, wait, I can't see this. The bottom of the deck is the six of fire. And the six of fire is interesting because it has a two of swords energy. And I feel like I understand what this is saying. Because perception came out with the inactive dark angel looking thing, and then the six of fire at the bottom of the deck. You see that? There's this sword that sort of brings life, and then there's that sword that does whatever. And she's like, she's not doing anything. So it's partially an energy of in general. It's like there are things that are for us to do, and there are things that are not for us to do. And then the five of earth is below that with the nine of fire below that. This five of earth energy is very much so like the hand you've been dealt. And it's almost like thinking that you have a bad hand, but in some very like Yu-Gi-Oh! Heart of the Cards. In some way, it's like there is something that you could do with your hand that could like win the game. And I feel like in that way, it's taking me back to that King of Air energy with emotions. Oh, I didn't even catch that. A King of Air with emotions. I love that because it feels like that's the one thing that a lot of like King of Swords energy is like lacking. Or like if you hear anybody, not anybody, it feels like the energy of the suit of air for especially traditionally, it's all like head over heart type energy. A lot of it is like emotionally disconnected or emotionally unavailable or just like emotionally not there. And so we think of them as cold. But that was a king of air energy with emotions, which is interesting because then I feel like it puts another context on the Three of Wands in reverse energy. And honestly, it's an energy like altogether, it just feels like there's the life that we live when we have love for others and we don't have love for self. And then there's the life that we live when we have love for others and we also have love for self. And when we also have love for self, and again, like if you go back through the videos, you'll probably hear me talk about how like I was not struggling, but it was something new to learn and incorporate. But it's like self-love doesn't take anybody else out of the equation. What self-love does, it puts you on the board. You're now a piece of your own puzzle and navigating like your life and everyone else's around you. It adds you to the equation. It doesn't subtract anybody else. It just adds you. And so now things change. And some people may feel like, they've been subtracted or you subtracted or whatever. And I feel like that's like the Three of Wands in reverse side of that, where it's like, because I remember somebody was like, what did they, again, part of me was being petty too, so that didn't help. But someone was like, yeah, you do seem like an Aquarius. And that I guess Aquariuses are stereotypically cold or something. I don't know. And it's just that energy where it's like, I guess when someone's used to you just giving and giving and giving and giving and giving and being present and just being there and giving. And it's like, especially when they get used to it, then it's like they're used to it. They don't necessarily see it as whatever. But when you sort of like reach your boundary and you're like, you know what, I can't just give and give and give and give and give and not get anything in return or not get something that pours back into me in return. Then it's like, oh, like what, you don't care, you ain't got no emotions, you're being so cold, you think you're better, blah blah blah, whatever. And it's like it's possible to be in that King of Swords energy as a King of Swords energy and still have emotions. We don't have to do one of those heart overhead things where we completely ignore what we're like thinking and what we perceive and how we analyze. Like we don't have to completely abandon like the logical and the perceivable for the intuitive and imperceivable. Again, like that's why that union energy kind of sort of came out. It's a King of Swords with emotions. So it's like, nice try. See, that's when I just get petty though. So maybe that's my shadow. That's my shadow slash darkness contributing to the overall functioning of Patrick. It's like using petty for personal good and helping to keep healthy boundaries healthy or something. I don't know. But that's this energy, and I feel like it's very, very, very bystander, but also like low key observing some of spirituality. It's extremely bystander. And that's one of the things it's one of the reasons why I got super mad and I stopped following like astrology and everything last year. It's like, just ignore the world. Everything outside of you is an illusion. None of it is real. Just go within, go within, go within. Stick to yourself, go within. It's none of it's real. It's all fake and you'll be fine. And it's like, ooh, with light workers like y'all, nothing is going to happen. Nothing. But so much of everything is just like withdraw, go within. It's all this perception energy. And maybe it was a product of the time, maybe everything was so fixed. And I think that energy came out recently for one of the piles. Maybe it was a lantern. Maybe it was the hummingbird. It's like everything was so fixed for a time that it's like maybe even if you did do something or say something, nothing would have gotten done. So maybe there was a time to be in perception energy and just watch, because nothing that you would have done would have like brought anything to the situation. But also with this energy, it's like if you just look at this side, if you just look at this side of the card, it's almost like what used to be light is now gone dark. Like you got to look at the other side to see that life is now here, type of energy. It's like maybe at the time it wasn't right. Maybe the moment wasn't right then. Maybe you were still learning, growing, evolving, maturing into who you are now. You were still on your journey, way and path in a space before you could affect things. You were still a child, not yet reaching the matured self energy. Maybe I was. It ain't all just you. And ain't it funny how I was like me, and now it's you. um, because I've been there. I've done that. I probably still do it sometimes. And I'm like, I embrace paradox though, so that absolves me of everything. Um, but it is that energy of like maybe it wasn't the time, but the time is now. And so all of the passive, perceptive, go within, like retreat so far inside, you basically like implode upon yourself. Well, maybe it's time to start doing something. Maybe the time is right now. I mean, the world is more malleable than it's ever been. It's more able to be changed. Pretty much every system has been disrupted. The flaws in pretty much every system have been like revealed. And it's a point of, I guess, more willingful. I don't want to say ignorance, but I like ignorance. I like ignorance not for calling someone ignorant. I like ignorance for it's like the act of ignoring something. It's like so many things have become so blatant that it's like willingly ignoring things. So it's like it's that kind of willingful ignorance. And maybe it's like the same thing. Maybe that's what willingful ignorance means. It's like you see something and you choose to ignore it. Like, oop, look the other way. I don't know. But I guess in some way, something would have to be changing. And I mentioned that earlier. There are so many tangents and threads probably all over this. It's me. So if you've watched me, you're probably used to it. Sometimes I'll watch myself back and I'll be like, wow, there was like a whole like 5 trains of thought that I didn't even talk about. It didn't even come out of my mouth. It didn't make it that far. And then I'm like already jumping to another one. But that's what I was talking about earlier. It seems that like a lot of perception in the past, as far as I can know, as far as I know, and as far as I can tell, a lot of the perception has been passive. It's like I'm gonna sit back, not do much of anything, or it's either passive or like we're already so convinced that it's gonna work out in a certain way that even if we do interact, we already know it's gonna work out in a certain way. And so what we're putting into the interaction is that like it's gonna work out in a certain way. You know what I mean? It's almost like if someone offers to help you because of some reason besides them wanting to help you, and then you can pick up on that. It's like, if you don't want to be here, if you don't want to help me, you don't have to help me. Just go. Almost sort of type of energy, because it's like again, engagements and interactions are important. I don't know. Well, I guess North Node is going to be in Taurus, and Taurus is ruled by Venus, and Venus also rules Libra. And we are in Patrick's world following the nodal transits. Like we've already been Cancer, we've already been Cardinal, and we've already been Mutable. The North Node is heading into a fixed sign. This is a fixed eclipse energy. It's in Taurus. So I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. But it's like it feels like we're setting everything now. We're preparing everything now. We're always setting the precedent. And you can choose to do something in your own life that's unprecedented by not following the previously set precedent of whatever. if it's working, if it's not working for you. If it is working for you, then keep doing it, obviously. Right. But it feels like a lot of the perception in the past was passive. But with this King of Swords energy, it feels like it's a lot less passive. Maybe it's the difference between like a passive perception and an active perception. So the King of Swords with emotions is an active perception energy. And maybe water energy is like passive perception. Because it feels like, again, the King of Swords energy is like what logically happens. What logic, yeah, water is passive perception. Because like Queen of Cups and her intuition or whatever feels very like passive perception. Very like, I'm gonna sit here and watch this play out the way that I know it's gonna play out. And King of Swords is like, no, we're gonna do something. And we're gonna do this, and they're gonna respond in that way. And when they respond like that, we do this. And when we respond like this to their that, then they're gonna do this other thing, and we're all gonna get on this thing, and then it's gonna go this way. Outside of the realm of passive perception. Because passive perception is passive. It's almost like it's incapable. Oh my gosh, is that the magic of masculine energy that we've been denying everybody or ourselves or whatever? Maybe masculine energy is like active perception. And feminine, I don't want to say feminine is passive perception. Masculine, it's active. Oh, what's the word like forethought? It's logical or active not effects. What's the word for effects? Causality? No. I don't know. Masculine energy is active. It it uses the power of its presence to do something. And it's almost like, I don't know if it's right now or whatever, but it's coming in with an energy of like, in some ways, knowing what the ultimate outcome is going to be. And again, it's like it's an outcome that is completely blind to one with a passive perception, because passive perception has no way of accommodating for what we actively do in our own lives. It's not the energy. That's that feminine intuition. It's that passive perception. It's that sitting back and watching everything play out. But if you are a part of the show, then there are things that you're just not going to know. But now we get this new active perception that's like, if I do this and I do this, then this will happen. And the active perception feels Aquarian, but it feels Aquarian because it's like it's looking up here, but it's doing here. So it's like it's always this far out, but it's doing here. And like as it does more, maybe that like that window continues to shift as it moves along type of energy. Maybe the window is tighter, maybe it's more narrow than that passive perception, like, because you don't necessarily have the bird's eye view of the parade anymore. You're kind of sort of in it. But when you're in the parade, if you're paying attention, like if the people in front of you start turning, then you know that there's a turn coming up. You don't have to have a bird's eye view to know that. You know what I mean? Anyway, active perception is that King of Swords energy. And I feel like that goes back to that fixing the destination, but releasing the path type of energy. I feel like it's very similar, very along the same vein. And I feel like, honestly, I really, truly, at the core of me, believe that that's the thing that humanity has been missing for long enough, that the world has continued to spiral and spiral and spiral while we just sort of like exist in it. And then I feel like, again, like it's been so much passive whatever that it's had virtually no effect in the real world. And virtually no effect in the real world, like the power of our presence is absent. Like there is no power in our presence at all. Virtually no power in our presence because we're not here. We're like tranced out, we're meditated out, we're in the cosmos, we're in the spirit world, we're like etheric, whatever. But it's like, well, when it comes to being here, not to say that it doesn't have an effect at all, because I'm sure it does in some part. but it's like it was missing that active component. And maybe that's how toxic masculine energy was running so rampant, because the only things and people that were doing stuff, not the only, because there's always been people who were doing it. It's just maybe potentially time to start doing stuff, okay? Maybe there's a new gift of actually holding presence in your life, being grounded in you in your life instead of going out and connecting to the grass and the trees. Not that the grass and the trees aren't going to help you, but it's like you go out, you connect to the grass and the trees, and then what? Like, is that it? As someone who doesn't connect to the grass and the trees by going outside, it's obviously outside of my realm of understanding. Um, I feel like low key, if I want to connect to the energy of Earth, I just go, Earth, where you at? And Earth is right there. But also, my path and journey has been one of like, instead of going to find the physical thing, let me connect to the vibration of the thing. Because if we're all one, and if everything exists at all times everywhere, then I shouldn't have to go outside to connect to it. I should be able to do that where I am. Now listen to me talking about going out or going into the real world and doing stuff. I'm backwards. I believe in paradox. Don't listen to me. Live your own life. Follow your own guidance and intuition. That's what it's given to you for. Find what works for you. A lot of stuff didn't work for me. A lot of stuff didn't work for me for a long time because I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't doing anything, and I actively chose to be stuck. I actively wanted to be stuck for a very long time. And to end this off, I'm going to flip through this book and read this random animal. And it's the turtle. I love that it's the turtle, because it was the faith card was on the back of a turtle, and in the tin of water, when she was like doing that whatever, there was a little turtle on the card. So the turtle is ancient soul, oof, grounded, double oof, trusting at home in the self. At home in the self, triple oof. It is wonderful. If I could read, girl. It is wonderful to be in the presence of a turtle personality. Like the beaver, the turtle has a strong relationship with the earth and water elements simultaneously. This helps to ground and connect them to the deeper truths of life, no matter where their travels lead them. Turtle energy is behind all great writers and storytellers as they collect life experiences under their shells for later use. The most potent turtle energy helps us close all the other books and begin to tell our own true tale. I love that. So close those other books, tell your own tale, or continue to let somebody else tell yours for you. And you can subscribe to that and resonate with that and, you know, live their life. Oof, girl, that's one thing that I'm not interested in doing. It's like, okay, well, how about I like live my own life though? Like, no, you gotta do this, you gotta like do like, how about I live my own life though? And you live your own life. And while you live your life and I live my life, there's something that we can create in the mutuality of us living different lives. That's why there's so many of us. Two heads are better than one. And, you know, that's how I believe. That's how I believe. I believe that we all come in with different stuff so that we can collaborate, and work together to create something that one head wouldn't do. And it seems like a lot of times some two heads is better than one, two heads are better than one. Energies is like, you believe what I believe, and we are greater together. But in my mind, that's like, okay, so y'all are like one head split between two people, or you're one head split between like 1,000 people, or you're one head split between 1,000,000 people. That's still only one mind, still only one brain. You're not going to get anything outside of what that one brain, one mind, one person can give you if all you do is take what someone else gives you. Again, with being that active player, with being on the board, with your journey being your journey, and you have something to offer as you, we need you. We don't need you being somebody else. Because then, like, we would just use them. You know what I mean? They would be here and not you. But you're here for good reason. And I'm talking to myself too, because apparently I need to hear it. Because that's a lesson for me to learn. That's a lesson that my real life is teaching me, that my spiritual life It's not that it wasn't, but this is also who I am as a person. It's the nature of me. And so it reaches out to my journey and it becomes the nature of my journey. I was also thinking about how I was thinking today, earlier today, about how I used to say it sometimes, but I observe my reality and interpret my reality just as much as I do dreams sometimes. Sometimes I observe and interpret my reality more than dreams. Because it's like, I notice this keeps happening. Like, what is this telling me? Like, what's going on? What's happening? What's shifting? What's changing? What's moving? How am I feeling? How am I feeling? Let me check. Is my heart beating? Okay. Is my anxiety like, all right? Okay. Feeling really excited and I don't have a reason. I'll take it. Not gonna question that one. I'm kidding. I understand and I know that it's the nature of my path and my journey. I understand and I know that because I am who I am and because I see and interact with the world the ways that I see and interact with the world, because my life has been what my life is, because my perceptions have been what my perceptions have been, and my historical context lived through the eyes, mind, body, soul, body of Patrick, that I think and feel these ways. Again, like that's why when I did that one spread I just did with the Starman and the Dolly, like I legitimately thought that there was like some base level where in general we were more or less all the same. But then I did that and I was like, what? This is supposed to be, I mean, maybe it's still superficial, but I was like, this is supposed to be like the most base level that I can have access to. And you are completely different from me. And I'm getting all these like feelings. I'm seeing it all playing out in this way, but in my reality, it doesn't work like that. What? And then the person was like, yeah, oh my gosh. And I was like, that's when I had to go to the board. Like, wow. So at some level, and again, this is Patrick's own beliefs. Patrick believes that we're different. And all together we create one, right? Just like, you got a heart and you got a brain and you have skin and you got toes if you're blessed to have all those things. But your heart and your brain are not the same. Your big toe and your pinky toe aren't even the same. It's like all together we compromise. All together we comprise the whole. But I'm like a skin cell, and you might be a heart cell, and somebody else may be a brain cell, and maybe within our organ, there's a lot of similarities, but the body thrives because each individual cell is doing what they're specialized to do. And I'm not the one to throw away all of who I am to meld into some homogenous mixture of everybody else. But I'm also not wired that way. So, you know, what can I say? I'm difficult. But I can be easy to get along with and work with. Sometimes not. I'm a paradox and I embrace it.